Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare
Ram, Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram
Hare
Ram,
Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna,
Krishna, Ram Ram Ram, Hare
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Ram
Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, 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 Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare
Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna,
who all are on the call today.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devidasi from Texas.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, so much for joining us and giving us your very practical association today. Welcome to the conference call, Mataji.
हरे कृष्णा प्रीति विलासिनी माता जी दंडवत प्रणाम श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय गुरु महाराज की जय दिस इज श्यामा गौरी देवीदासी गुरुशाला
Hare Krishna, Shyama Gauri Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Shri Prabhupada, thank you so much, Mataji, for your very beautiful chanting and joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Priti Vilasini Mataji, Dandavat Pranam to you and all Vaishnava. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Vrinda Gopika Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Shri Prabhupada, thank you so much, Mataji, for giving us a very valuable association and hope you're feeling better.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gaurang, all glories to all the assembled devotees. This is Shashidhar joining from Texas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Shashidhar Prabhu. Thank you so much for always joining us and chanting every mid-morning. It's always a pleasure to hear you chant, Prabhu. Thank you so much for joining us.
Prabhuji, I need your phone number, Shashidhar Prabhu. Can I get your number? I mean, can you message me? You can see my number.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Sri Guru and Gauranga and all the assembled devotees. Yashomati from Chicago.
Hare Krishna, Yashomati Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Shri Prabhupada, thank you so much, Yashomati Mataji, for joining us, chanting and giving us your very, very valuable association regularly on the call. Welcome.
Thank you, Mataji. Also, your services is very nice, Mataji, always. You are the pillar of the Bhakti Sangha too.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Is there anyone else who would like to introduce themselves?
Hare Krishna Mataji, this Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Neetu from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna, Neetu Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Shri Prabhupada, thank you so much, Mataji, for joining us and giving us your very valuable association today. Is there anyone else who would like to introduce themselves? We'll wait for another minute. Hare Krishna, welcome to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you all for the very wonderful chanting. I'll read the quote for today. This is 7th November. The difference between a devotee and a non-devotee is this. Just like a bee and the fly, the bee always is attracted by the honey and flies to the bee always is attracted by the honey and flies go to the open source. So the devotee is only attracted by the good qualities in others and does not see their faults. So thank you all so much for joining us today and welcome to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. Today's class will be given by His Grace Radhika Vallabh Prabhu. Prabhuji, thank you so much for giving us your very valuable association. Today we'll be reading from Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, and this is Adi Khanda, chapter 13, and we'll be covering verses 172 to 174. Prabhuji, you can now take over the call.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu, we can hear you.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshuronmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna-prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Punyavadi Paschatya Deshakarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhattavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Caitanya Bhagavata. Somebody is sharing the screen. Shall I read from the screen?
Sure, Prabhu, you can go ahead and read, Prabhu.
Okay, so I'm gonna. So from the Adi Khanda 13 point, what's the verse number? 170?
2 to 4.
172. So I'll read from Caitanya Bhagavata, verse Adi Khanda, chapter 13, 172. Shunadvijavara tumi mahabhagyavan Saraswati yahara jihvaya adhishtana. Listen, O best of the Brahmanas, you are most fortunate, for Saraswati resides on your tongue. Digvijaya karib vidyar karya nahe, Ishware bajile se vidya satya kahe, Manadiya bhuja deha chadiya chalile, Danava parusha sange kichuna hi chale. Conquering the world is not the proper use for knowledge. The proper use of knowledge is to worship the Supreme Lord. Try to understand, when one gives up his body, he cannot take wealth and reputation. Commentary by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Because ordinary foolish people consider material knowledge and spiritual knowledge as one or equal. They think that the bondage of material knowledge is a platform of knowledge. The living entity's desire for Digvijaya or achieving victory over others is born of false ego resulting from material knowledge. Vidya or knowledge actually refers to the supreme service of Lord Vishnu, because wealth, physical strength, and good health do not follow a person at the time of death. A person who accepts material enjoyment as all in all utilizes his wealth, knowledge, and physical strength to increase his sense enjoyment. But after his death, these material assets become most useless. Hare Krishna. So we are actually reading this beautiful pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's interaction with the Digvijay Pandit, Keshava Kashmiri. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving, Nimai Pandit is giving very instructive verses here. He's saying that first he's actually glorifying Keshava Kashmiri, that you are so fortunate because Saraswati resides on your tongue. And then Mahaprabhu is saying that the real purpose of knowledge is to worship the Supreme Lord. Just to conquer over others or and gain some reputation and wealth. That is not the real purpose of knowledge, because these things cannot be taken along with a person after death. So I'll discuss something on the subject of the study of the Shastra. What should be the mood of the study of Shastra, and something in relation to the topic of knowledge. So, this can be a very elaborate topic, but I'll discuss in briefly. Remember, around 15 years back or before that, in Shri Radha Gopinath temple, first time the devotees in the Brahmachari ashram wrote Bhakti Shastri exam. Initially, the leaders wrote Bhakti Shastri exam about 1 or 2 years before that. And then Bhakti Shastri was taught for all the brahmacharis, and then Bhakti Shastri exam was going to be conducted. And before that exam, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he actually gave a class to all the devotees who were going to write the exam. And he spoke on a very beautiful verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. An appropriate verse was chosen by Gauranga Prabhu. The verse spoken by Sri Balaramji before he killed Romaharshan Sutta. So yeah, I'll go through that verse in due course of time. So then Maharaj gave a class on that particular verse, and oftentimes when we conduct after that particular year, whenever we conducted a Bhakti Shastri exam, we would try to remember the instructions which Radhanath Swami Maharaj gave during that class. So I will try to share something from that, some very beautiful insights which Maharaj gave in that class. So Radhanath Swami Maharaj mentioned, if you read Srila Prabhupada's books with a sense of urgency, then every word will penetrate our heart and change our life. Intellect and logical reason cannot go beyond material elements. But faith goes beyond intelligence and logic. We can experience transcendental bliss in hearing or reading Krishna Katha when we have eagerness. And then he said, attention of the heart is more important than the attention of the ear or the attention of the intellect. So sometimes a person may be wanting to accumulate more information. Yeah, it's at least better than, it is at least directed towards spiritual subject matter, but still wanting to accumulate more information, that is one level of eagerness, that is just attention of the ear or the intellect. But attention of the heart is more important than the attention of the ear. Attention of the heart means the service attitude is more important than the attention of the ear. And Uddhava was actually, before Krishna was departing from this world, Krishna was sitting at the base of a banyan tree. So at that time, Maitreya Rishi was very eagerly waiting to listen from Krishna. With a great eagerness, he was actually keeping his head lower. And then he was sitting in a lower platform and wanting to hear from Krishna. Tasyanu raktasya munir mukunda pramoda bhava natakandarasya ashrunvato mam anuragahasa ashrunvato mam anuragahasa. So this verse comes in 3rd canto, 4th chapter. That although Maitreya Rishi was actually sitting with a great eagerness to hear from Krishna, but Krishna was not paying attention to Maitreya Rishi. He was waiting for Uddhava to arrive at that particular place. And then when Uddhava arrived, Krishna actually especially smiled at Uddhava and allowed for Uddhava to relax for some time, and then he started speaking. So why Krishna showed special affection towards Uddhava? Because Maitreya Rishi at that particular point in time, he was a Jnana Mishra Bhakta, but Uddhava was a pure devotee. So Krishna wanted to show to Maitreya Rishi how he is especially inclined towards the pure devotees like Uddhava. So a Jnana Mishra Bhakta is he may be a devotee, but he is also interested in accumulating knowledge. But the purpose of accumulating knowledge is to actually develop service attitude, to worship the Lord. That is the attitude of a pure devotee. Prabhupada says in one purport, this point which Maharaj mentioned, that when a person reads Srila Prabhupada's books with a sense of urgency, then every word will penetrate our heart and change our life. The Prabhupada writes in a purport in 1st canto, when Suta Goswami was narrating the transcendental activities of the Lord before the sages, they were factually perceiving the result of hearing these transcendental activities. One can feel this practically, just like a person can feel while eating the food. Bhakti pareshanubhavo viraktir anyatra chaisham trikag ekakala prapadyamanasya. Just like when a person is eating food, one can feel the nourishment. Similarly, one can experience the spiritual nourishment. And when a person is reading Shastra, one should try to go deep into the Shastra. So, just like an expert person can detect a diamond from a seemingly dirt extracted from a mine. Like externally, it may be a mine of dirt, but an expert person can detect the diamond deep inside the dirt. So similarly, an expert reader can extract deep lessons from even an ordinary passage. So one should, when we go deep into the Shastra, we can extract the pearls of diamond, pearls of wisdom from the Shastra. Just like when a person is surfing on the surface of the ocean, one cannot get pearls of wisdom. One has to go deep inside the ocean. So in a diamond mine, diamond is extracted from deep in the mines. The diamond mine, whatever words a person speaks, those words will keep reverberating. Similarly, when you go deep into Prabhupada's books and extract those diamond-like realizations of Prabhupada, they will constantly keep reverberating in a person's heart. So, like going deep into the ocean, when a person goes deep into the ocean, one is supposed to like carry the different oxygen supply for going deep into the ocean. So similarly, to go deep into the Shastra, one has to go with the weight of Vaishnava Seva and taking up responsibilities. So without that Vaishnava Seva and a sense of responsibility, if a person tries to go deep into the Shastra, one cannot get realizations. And when a person is studying the Shastra, service and study of the Shastra, it makes a person steady in bhakti. So both have to be there, service and study. So Parikshit Maharaj, we can see how he had a service attitude. At the same time, he also had a great inquisitiveness to know spiritual subject matters. In the second canto, 8th chapter, Parikshit Maharaj asks a list of questions. In one question, he says that, please describe the inner and outer space of the universe by specific divisions, as well as the character and activities of the great souls, and also the characteristics of the different classifications of the caste and orders of social life. So here Parikshit Maharaj is so inquisitive that he is saying that please describe the inner and outer space of the universe. So Maharaj Parikshit is anxious to know the complete significance of the creation of the Lord. So it is quite fitting for the real searcher of knowledge to know all about this. So sometimes people think that the devotees means they are simply satisfied with certain sentiments. But when we see Parikshit Maharaj, we can see that how inquisitive he was. We can learn that how a pure devotee must be inquisitive to know things in their true perfection. But at the same time, Parikshit Maharaj is not simply satisfied with getting some information or technical knowledge about the inner and outer space of the universe. But Parishad Maharaj is also inquisitive about the character and activities of the great devotees of the Lord. So the character and activities of the Supreme Lord, how they exhibited their humility, service attitude, their absorption. Parishad Maharaj is also inquisitive to know about that. So this shows that how he had a service attitude, and also he was very inquisitive to study or hear the Shastras. Service attitude in the sense that many times to hear about the character of the devotees, it may be some very simple stories actually. There may be some simple stories of devotees. The same thing may keep coming. But to hear about the character of the devotees, that shows one service attitude. That is, in fact, it is described in the Bhagavatam. Shrutasya pumsam suchira shramasya nanvanjasa suribiridi torta tattad gunanu shravanam mukunda padaravinda hridayeshu yesham. The goal of a person who is actually who is putting a great effort to learn from the Guru, to hear from the Guru. The goal of a person who is engaged in studying the Shastra from a Guru is to ultimately come to the point of hearing about the pure devotees of the Lord, in whose hearts the Supreme Lord resides. So therefore, the goal of the Shastric study is to actually hear about the devotees of the Lord. And so when we are studying the Shastra or hearing the Shastra, the mood of submission is important. Here the Digvijay Pandit was highly learned, but he didn't have the submissive mood. He had arrogance. We see in the Bhagavad Gita itself, Arjuna heard the Gita, Dhritarashtra heard the Gita, Duryodhan heard the Gita. But Arjuna was transformed by hearing the Gita, but Dhritarashtra was not at all transformed. Nashtamoho smritirlavdva tatprasadat mayachyuta karishye vachanam taha gatosmi hitosmi gata sandeha karishye vachanam tava. Arjuna was transformed because he heard in a submissive mood. And when we are hearing the Shastra and we are trying to accumulate knowledge, along with that study of the Shastra, service attitude is important, submissiveness is important, and performing proper sadhana and observing the 4 regulative principles, they are also important. Just like in cooking, there is the actual activity of cooking. So we learn that activity, but even apart from that activity of cooking, there are many other activities which are also important. Purchasing the right ingredients, washing the vegetables, cutting the vegetables. These things are prior to cooking, but they are also important. So similarly, there is the actual activity of studying or accumulating scholarship, but there are other activities like performing one sadhana, doing one services, observing the 4 regulative principles. They are also very important. They also play a very good role in studying the Shastra. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that as long as we have the desire to enjoy the opposite sex, one cannot relish Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada mentions in one purport, a famous purport, hearing and explaining is more important than mere reading. Sometimes a person may read a lot, but if we don't balance that with sharing with others, teaching to others or explaining to others, then only reading it will not help so much. So when a milk is extracted from a cow, if the milk is not extracted from a cow, the cow will become sick. It is not good for the cow also. Similarly, if a person simply keeps reading but does not share that with others, then that knowledge may lead to pride. And so in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami says that pure devotional service should not be covered by jnana karma, dhyana. So in that regard, Jiva Goswami says that which knowledge will cover one's bhakti? When a person research into Brahman, that knowledge will cover one's bhakti. He uses the word anusandhana. Anusandhana means a detailed research. Yeah, it may be important to have some knowledge of the impersonal Brahman, generic knowledge of the impersonal Brahman. Jiva Goswami also explains about the knowledge of the impersonal Brahman in the Bhagavad Sandarbha, Paramatma Sandarbha. But putting a great effort to study the knowledge of impersonal Brahman in great detail, that will cover one's bhakti. And apart from that, doing a detailed research on the bhakti sadhana, that is very favorable. In fact, that will be that is very much needed. That will strengthen one's sambandha jnana. But even in the case of the when we are reading the devotional scriptures, but if you are simply trying to accumulate scholarship but does not develop, if you do not develop service attitude, then in that case, even that bhakti knowledge will cover one's bhakti. The knowledge of the devotional scriptures will cover one bhakti. So therefore, even when we are reading devotional scriptures, we should read in such a way that it enhances our service attitude. And when we are reading devotional scriptures, we should not think that, oh, because I have read so many scriptures, I am better than these other devotees who have not read these scriptures. If the reading of the devotional scriptures leads to a pride of scholarship, then in that case also, it is covering one's bhakti. It should not lead to the pride of scholarship. And yeah. So through the parampara, the transcendental knowledge has been passed down. So we have to understand that simply having knowledge, that alone, simply having the knowledge alone cannot give one spiritual realization. But when we practice that knowledge, we get realization. So, but to practice that knowledge, first we have to know what is right and what is wrong. We should know the do's and don'ts. Therefore, unless we understand the sambandha jnana about the soul, material world, and the Supreme Lord, so then one will not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. So therefore, transcendental knowledge is the basis. That is why Prabhupada said that books are the basis. And Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he wanted to disseminate this knowledge throughout the world. And he did it through the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Mahaprabhu defeated Prakashananda Saraswati Thakur, but he wanted the books to be written in a very deep way to delineate the position of Krishna as a Swayam Bhagavan and the understanding of how to realize him. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chose Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami to be the founders of his, founder acharyas of his sampradaya, because because Mahaprabhu saw in them very good Vaishnava qualities. So many times when you are reading the Shastra, a person may get, somebody may naturally have good intelligence to analyze the Shastra. And somebody may have good intelligence to memorize the Shastra. So when we talk about memory, memory is defined in two ways in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. One way is that a person is able to immediately, once a person hears, one is able to immediately remember that. It goes deep into his memory. And one is able to recall that at any point in time. So this memory is considered one aspect of intelligence. Another aspect of intelligence is that the ability to present newer and newer arguments instantaneously by analyzing the opponent's viewpoint. This is another aspect of intelligence. The ability to analyze and the ability for memorizing. So these are the two aspects of intelligence. So oftentimes somebody may have this good intelligence. That means one may analyze and one may have ability to memorize. But these things come from
I think Prabhu's connection is a little weak. We'll just wait for him to reconnect.
I'll just switch over to the mobile hotspot.
Sure, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So the ability to memorize and from past karma. But the to have faith in what we are speaking or to what we are reading and to practice that in our actual life, that is more important than simply to memorize and analyze actually. So especially to have faith in the knowledge which we are actually hearing or reading, that comes from blessings of the great souls when we serve them. So only when the faith is deep, then we'll actually try to put that into practice. So that is more important than simply memorizing and analyzing the Shastra. This is another point Radhanath Maharaj mentioned. And so in the case of Balramji, and Balramji saw Romaharshan Sutta. So Balramji saw that Romaharshan Sutta was actually proud of his knowledge. He's not having the proper qualities. So at that time, Balramji speaks the words, Setihasa Puranani Dharmashastrani Sarvasha Adviniyasya Vrita Panditamaninaha Na Gunaya Bantisma Natasyeva Ajitatmanaha. So although he is a disciple of the sage Vyasadeva and he has thoroughly learned the Shastras from him, all the Itihasas, Puranas, but good qualities in scripture. It has become actors. His dialogue in a 12 are humble and vainly presumes himself a scholarly authority, although he has failed his own mind. So Balramji, he took a blade of grass. So in English, the exclamation mark also looks like a blade of grass. So Balramji is putting an exclamation point. He just spoke this verse, Rishir Bhagavato Bhutva, and then he's putting an exclamation mark by taking he's putting an exclamation mark after the verse. So what does that mean? That by actually seeing Romaharta, Balramji is greatly surprised that he is so learned, but he is not having the good qualities. He is a personal associate of Vyasadeva, and he has amazing ability and capacity to speak with charisma and mesmerize others. But still, he was thinking himself to be highly learned. So therefore, Romaharshan Sutta also represents who is called as a Dharma Dwaji, somebody who is holding the flag of Dharma, but who is not dharmic within. So Dharma Dwajis are one of the worst people to associate with, because they externally are weak, but they don't have the right attitude. So Balramji, the next shloka, he says that I have descended to this world to eliminate the hypocrites who appears as religious leaders, essentially the Dharma Dwajis. So then Balramji took that blade of grass and actually killed him. So Prabhupada once said that philosophy without good qualities has little or no value. So that is why, along with the study of the book, there are also we have to evaluate, are we developing the Vaishnava quality, developing service. Usually we find that many people are very particular about doing the annual health checkup, or when the doctor says, okay, you take this medicine after 2 months, you do a test of the creatinine, or do your sugar checkup. Usually people are very particular about doing their finding out the sugar levels, or creatinine levels, or the blood pressure, or the fat levels. And people are also very particular about the amount of money which they are investing, that how it is actually, how much interest it is producing. Usually we are very particularly monitoring these aspects very nicely. But do we do an annual health checkup of our spiritual health? How are we anarthas getting eradicated? Is the practice of bhakti and the shastra, is it producing good qualities? What extent of the anarthas are getting eradicated? So these things, such kind of health checkups also a person needs to undergo or needs to examine regularly. Therefore, Prabhupada said that philosophy is supposed to produce good qualities. Without good qualities, it has little or no value. On the other hand, right at the beginning of the Bhagavatam, the same Romaharshan Suta's son, Suta Goswami, was glorified by the sages of Naimisharanya for his good qualities. Yani Veda Vidam Sreshto Bhagavan Badarayanaha Anyecha Munaya Suta Paravara Vido Viduhu Vetatvam Saumya Tatsarvam Tatvatas Tad Anugrahat Bruya Snigdasya Shishyasya Guravo Bhukyam Apyuta. the sages are saying that because you are submissive, by the mercy of the Gurus, you know all the matters and truth which the Supreme Lord Vyasa, the best among the knowers, and other sages who know the Brahman with and without qualities have understood. So because you are submissive to your Guru, that the Gurus must have revealed the confidential knowledge unto you. So in this way, Suta Goswami is glorified. And real knowledge is not simply speaking eloquently, but the real knowledge is the ability to discriminate between what is favorable for bhakti and what is unfavorable for bhakti. So that is real knowledge. And understanding of the scriptures can be calculated not by the quantity of what we know, but by the quality of our character. If we actually understand the Shastra, we become deeply humble with an eagerness to serve with no selfish motivation. And by reading scriptures, one does not get mercy, but reading scriptures shows us the way to get mercy. So there's a beautiful pastime of Nimai Pandit. Once he was going on a boat along with his friend. And Nimai Pandit was mentioning that he had written a book on a grammar, particular aspect of grammar. So the moment Nimai Pandit mentioned that, his friend's face became very dull because his friend had also written a book on the same topic of grammar. And he felt that if people come to know that Nimai Pandit has written a book on the same topic, who would read my book? Because Nimai Pandit is such a great scholar, people would want to read the book written by Nimai Pandit. So thinking like that, he became very dull. So Nimai Pandit could immediately understand the mood of his friend. So at that time, he threw the book he wrote into the Ganges. That was the only copy. So one may think that what a great loss that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the book written by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is thrown into the Ganges. But in one lecture, Radhanath Swami Maharaj mentioned, from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's perspective, for all time to come, for all the people, a more valuable contribution than his incredible literary scholarship was the example of how he threw his own fame as a great scholar into the Ganges, so that somebody else could get that fame. That was the quality exhibited by Nimai Pandit, and that is the very point which Nimai Pandit is asking Keshav Kashmiri in the verses which we are reading, that the purpose of scholarship is to worship the Supreme Lord. It is not to simply to get some reputation or to conquer others. So many people, they want to read the books of the Acharyas, but they don't want to follow the example of the qualities they exhibited. So wanting to simply read the books of the Acharyas without trying to follow their qualities is incomplete. It is useless. So I'll read go through some more points. So the Nirukta is one of the Vedangas. Among the 6 Vedangas, there is a Nirukta. So in Nirukta, there is a dialogue between a Brahmana and Vidya Devi. And Vidya Devi asked the Brahmana, Vidya Havai Brahmanam Ajagama. So Vidya Devi asked that Vidya Devi approached the Brahmana and said to the Brahmana, Gopayamam Shevadishteham Asmi. Please protect me. I am your wealth. Vidya is the wealth of a Brahmana. So Vidya is telling to the Vidya Devi is telling to the Brahmana, please protect me. I am your wealth. So then Vidya Devi tells the Brahmana how the Brahmana should protect her. She says that Asuya Akayaneya Ayat. So when a Vidya is given to an unqualified person, then that wealth is not protected. You protect the wealth Vidya to right. So Vidya Devi says that do not give me to three types of people. Asuya, those who are envious. Asuya Akaya, Andrjave, those who are crooked, and Ayataya, those who are devoid of sense control. Do not give this knowledge to these three kinds of people. So, Nama, Bruya, Viryavati, Yatasyam. So, when you don't give me to these unqualified people, then I will remain extremely potent. So, therefore, we find that in every Shastra, there is an adhikari for the knowledge. In the Gita also, idam te na tapaskaya na bhaktaya kadachana nacha asusrushave vachyam nacha mam yobhya suyati. Bhagavatam says that dharma projita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam. So especially this is very important in this world, because in the today's world everything is treated as a commodity. So even Vidya has become a great business actually. Education is such a business, it's become a great business. So Vidya is afraid of those people who will actually treat her as a commodity or who will misuse her. So there are many verses in the Shastras also which actually warn a person who tries to make a business out of Shastric knowledge, Vedic knowledge. So especially this is important in the current time. The Shastra is to be given to a qualified people. If we are not qualified, then we should pray to the qualified people to make us qualified so that we can learn the Shastra. So, and what is the need of studying the Shastra? Jiva Goswami, the Tattva Sandarbha, he mentions a very beautiful point. He says that Tasmat Veda Eva Asmakam Sarvatita Sarvashraya Sarva Achintyashraya Swabhavam Vastu Vividishatam Pramanam. Therefore, for those people who wish to know about that transcendental truth, which is Sarva Atita, beyond all matter, Sarva Ashraya, which is the shelter of everyone, Sarva Achintya, which is inconceivable, Sarva Ashcharya, which is of wonderful nature. So for those people, Vividishatam, those who are eager to know about that transcendental truth which is having these qualities, what is the way out? Tasmat Veda Eva Asmakam. Vedas are our only means to understand it. So the purpose of studying the Shastra is to actually understand the supreme absolute truth. This is what Yoga Goswami is saying. So somebody may say that Yuga Dharma is chanting the holy name, that itself is sufficient. What is the need to study the Shastra? But the point is, the information that chanting is the Yuga Dharma, where do we get that information? That information comes from the Shastra only. So therefore, even to know that the chanting is the Yuga Dharma, you need the help of the Shastra. But then one may say that, but for practicing bhakti, Shastra is not required. There are verses in the Bhagavatam which says that Yanastaya Naro Rajan, Yavan Yanastaya Naro Rajan, Yavan Nimilya Naskalirna pateti halite. Even if a person runs with his two eyes closed at a great speed on this path of bhakti, one will neither stumble nor a person will fall. Because if a person is sincerely practicing bhakti, Krishna will give the knowledge of the Shruti and the Smriti, which are compared to the two eyes. Normally, when a person is running with eyes closed, one will fall down in the path. But in the path of bhakti, one is supposed to practice bhakti according to the Shruti and the Smriti. And Shruti and Smriti are compared to the two eyes. If a person, even if a person does not, is illiterate, if he is not having the knowledge of Shruti and Smriti, but if he is sincere, Krishna will give that knowledge from within. So that one will not make any mistakes. So one may say that bhakti, for bhakti, Shastra is not required. Krishna will give the Shastra. But then, when we talk about bhakti, there are 9 stages of bhakti, and bhakti begins with Shraddha. And what is the definition of Shraddha given by Jiva Goswami? Shastrartha Vishwasa Eva Shraddha iti labde. Shraddha Taratamyena Shraddhavatam Taratamyam. So faith in the meanings of the Shastra is known as Shraddha. Shastrartha Vishwasa. And once this fact is established, then we understand that the degree of advancement of a devotee is according to the degree of faith in Shastra. So that is why the classification of Kanishta, Madhyama and Uttamadhikari, it is classified based on one's faith in the meanings of the Shastra. Based on one's degree of faith in the Shastra. So nowadays, actually, even the 4 Vedas are easily accessible. All the soft copies, archive.org, everywhere it is easily accessible. Like mobile phone, laptops are easily accessible, and so many people are using it. In India, I think Reliance has come up with some budget laptop with 20,000 rupees. So more people will start using it. So these things are easily available. Everyone is using it. And similarly, the Vedas are also in the current time, they are very easily available. Like as compared to previous times, where the books were sparse, and now all the books are in soft copy in the internet. They are so easily accessible. But still, how many people are reading? How many people are writing commentaries on the Vedas? Very few people, actually. Because to learn the Vedas, one has to approach a guru. That very procedure of learning the Vedas makes the Vedas that it cannot be made into a commodity. Because one has to learn the Vedas from a guru. Tad Vijnanartham Sagurum Yeva Abhigachet Samitpani Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. One has to study under a guru, one has to serve a guru. Samitpani means taking a firewood. The ancient times, the disciples would take a firewood in order to assist the guru in his Agnihotra Yajna. So the firewood represents a service. So one has to serve the guru, and then that is a way to actually learn the Shastra. So therefore, everything in this world can be made into a commodity, but the Shastra can never be made into a commodity, because the Shastric knowledge has to be learned by serving a Vaishnava, serving a Sadhu. So I mentioned previously from the Nirukta that Vidya Devi is telling that do not give me to 3 kinds of people. One who envies Vedic knowledge, one who is crooked or one who is not simple in his mood and intentions. And third is the person who is unwilling to put in the required effort, or one who is not self-controlled. So these 3 kinds of people do not give me this, do not give the knowledge. So when a person is having these qualities, envious and crooked and having lack of sense control, But still, when a person tries to study Shastra, he may get even external learning, but he cannot get two things. He cannot get Anubhuti, that is a genuine experience of Krishna consciousness, and he cannot get Preeti, genuine love for the Supreme Lord. That is what Nimai Pandit is pointing out to Keshav Kashmiri, that the purpose of knowledge is to worship the Supreme Lord. And when we talk about the Shastra, Shastra is actually non-different from Krishna. In the Chitraketu Maharaj's episode, I think Chitraketu Maharaj interaction with Lord Sankarshan. So Lord Sankarshan says, Shabda Brahma Param Brahma Mamobe Shashwati Tanu. Sankarshana is saying that my two eternal bodies are known as Shabda Brahma, that is Vedic literature, and Param Brahma, my transcendental form. So the Shabda Brahma is the denoter and the Param Brahma is the denoted. Or Shabda Brahma is the signifier and the Param Brahma is the signified. There is a Vachya Vachaka Sambandha. So suppose, for example, there's a khaki dress that is like the denoter. And the person who is denoted by the khaki dress is the policeman. He is a denoted. Similarly, Shabda Brahma is the Vedic literature. Is the signifier or the denoter. And the person who is denoted by the Vedic literature is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there is a beautiful Subhashita about utilizing and misutilizing knowledge. Vidya Vivadaya Dhanam Madaya Shaktihi Paresham Paripidanaya Kalasya Sador Viparitam Jnanaya Danaya Cha Rakshanaya. So the mischievous people, Kala means the mischievous people, they use their education for conflict and for money and for they use the education for conflict, for vivada, just for some dry debate, vidya vivadaya. And the mischievous people, they use their money for intoxication, dhanam madaya. And they use their power for oppressing others, to give trouble to others, paresham paripidanaya. And opposite to that, the sadhus, they use the knowledge for what purpose? They use for exactly for opposite. They use it. They use the knowledge not for actually getting involving in debate with others, but for actually sharing with others. But for genuinely sharing and understanding the subject matter. And they use the dhanam for charity. And they use the power for protecting others, not for giving trouble to others. So, this way there are actually, there are many other points are there, but I'll just stop here. Yeah, there's one more verse I'll speak and then I'll end. There is usually in all the traditional gurukuls, traditional system of education, there is a famous verse which tells about how a person accumulates knowledge. So it says that Acharyat Padam Adatte Padam Shishya Swamedaya Kalena Padam Adatte Padam Sabrahmacharibihi. That means a person learns 1/4 of the knowledge from the Acharya and 1/4 of the knowledge by discussing with fellow students, and 1/4 a person accumulates by one's own intelligence or one's own self-study, and 1/4 a person accumulates in due course of time. And this is a famous Subhashita, but exactly a similar verse is given directly by Veda Vyasa in the Mahabharata. Kalena padam labate tatartam tatascha padam guru yogatarcha utsaha yogena cha padam riche shastrena padam cha tatobhyati. The brahmachari attains a quarter of the meaning of the Vedas by passage of time, kalena padam, and a quarter by staying with the Guru, by hearing from the Guru, serving the Guru, and a quarter by his own enthusiasm, utsaha yogena cha padam, and a quarter by mutual discussion with others. So this is the process of accumulating, process of actually assimilating the knowledge. So oftentimes, if we see in the modern times, some people, they go only into reading, doing their self-study. Some people, they just do their own self-study. They may not discuss with others. They may not hear from a teacher. Sometimes they just mainly depend on their own self-study. By that, they may get some information, but they cannot assimilate the knowledge. And there are some people, they think that, oh, simply by joining the best coaching institute, they can become learned. In fact, all the coaching institutes, they do a great business simply by advertisement. Oh, these many people got so many ranks in our coaching institute in the last year. So people think that simply by joining the best college or best coaching institutes, they can accumulate knowledge. But according to this verse in the Shastra, even if you go to the best of the teachers, one of my Sanskrit teacher told that even if Brihaspati comes and teaches you, you will get only 1/4 of the knowledge. Because to get the remaining 3/4, you have to ensure that you discuss with others, you put your own enthusiasm, and then you try to apply it in your life, and then you will get 1/4 of the knowledge in due course of time. So therefore, that some people become over-dependent on only hearing from the best guru, but they don't take care of the other aspects. And some people, they become over-dependent on one's own effort. They feel that they don't have to learn from a guru, or they don't need to discuss with other students. Therefore, this is also the important verse about the system of education. So I'll stop here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. It was such a nice class. I really enjoyed hearing from you all different points. Some things that really I learned and to me today were about how Guru Maharaj was also talking about how one can hear with ears, intellect, and heart, but the most potent form of hearing is with the heart, and how sharing actually decreases the pride in the heart. And very nicely you spoke about Dharma Dhwaji, right? That was how Balaram had addressed him, because he was only the guise of following Dharma. And how really, if you understand Shastra, then you should really become humble. It's not just about some intellectual exercise. And the degree of advancement is the degree of faith that you have in Shastra, and how the 4 quarters, I thought that was extremely interesting. But I was just thinking about it. Yeah, 4 quarters. It is not just by one method. You learn by 4 different ways over a period of time. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Such a very nice, thought-provoking it was. So I open the forum for questions. I don't have any questions, but I appreciate the effort you had. Anyone has any questions or comments? Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for such a beautiful, beautiful class. I don't have any questions, but very beautiful class, Prabhu. It's very late night, but you came and you're doing such a beautiful class. Very grateful to you. Hare Krishna.
And the other thing that struck to my mind is when you were talking about intellect, you said it has two branches. One is memory, and the other one is the analytical ability to refute. If you're Oh, that's very true, because most of us we just have mainly memory, and yeah, it's very difficult to actually face someone and refute their arguments. So,
In fact, both these aspects of intelligence were demonstrated by Chaitanya Nimai Pandit to this interaction with Keshav Kashmiri. Because Nimai Pandit asked Keshav Kashmiri, when Keshav Kashmiri spoke those 100 verses like a raging wind in glorification of the Ganges, Nimai Pandit said, "Oh, you have spoken so nicely. Now let us actually try to analyze some of the good qualities and the faults in your composition." And then he said, "Let us take the 64th verse." So then Nimai Pandit Keshav Kashmiri asked, "How did you remember these 64 verses, 64th verse?" He said, "By Krishna's mercy, you have got the ability to compose verses, but the same Krishna has given me has given his mercy to remember whatever I hear once." So Nimai Pandit could remember the verses. Not only he could remember, he could also analyze the good qualities and the faults in the composition. So that memory and also analyzing skill, both were demonstrated by Mahaprabhu.
Wonderful. So nice, Prabhu. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, actually, this is the example. These verses are the example. So thank you for very, very grateful for your association. So if there are no other questions or comments or realizations, we can end the call. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, as well.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. श्रील His Grace Radhika Vallabh Prabhu की जय. की जय.
Jai, jai.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.